All right, everyone. Well, welcome to today's webinar. I just want to welcome each of you to our webinar today. We're extremely excited to have Rich Foreman presenting with us on selling apps to nonprofits and to the public sector vertical. Rich has been with us since 2011. He's the founder and CEO of Apptology and considered to be one of our top producing resellers. In addition, Rich is one of our oldest resellers. A cool story about Rich is he came and visited us in 2011. We were still in the Millbrae office. We were just a small team of 15. He brought us pizza. It was really memorable. It was awesome, and was actually the first reseller I met. So, Rich, I can't thank you enough for joining us on today's webinar and sharing your experience with us.
Well, thanks for having me, Megan.
Yeah.
Do you,
Go ahead.
do you want me to start, or do you have more? Sorry.
Oh, no. Before we get started, I just want to go over some basic housekeeping for everyone. The webinar session will be an hour long. It's recorded, so if you have to leave at any point in time during the webinar, a recording of this session will be sent out via email to everyone who signed up. So you'll have that to reference. In addition, if you have not heard about this already, Business Apps is actually hosting our first ever conference this coming November. Rich will actually be attending and presenting at the conference. So you can meet him in person there. He will be heading one of our breakout sessions, and specifically the topic is going to be on how to build a custom feature with business apps outside of the platform. So lots of exciting stuff. So if you are thinking about the conference, please consider making the trip to San Francisco. It's going to be well worth it. It's going to be jam-packed with breakout sessions, workshops, guest speakers from some of the most prominent tech companies, and just a really fun event filled with idea sharing, networking, and you're able to meet other resellers alike. And you'll get to meet the Business Apps team. Okay, so during the webinar, if you have any questions, feel free to send them through the chat box that you see at the bottom right. We will have a short Q&A session afterwards, and Rich will get those questions answered for you after the presentation. All right, take it away, Rich.
All right, thank you. Well, thanks for having me, Megan. And I'm going to quickly just go over the agenda real quick. And what I'm going to talk about today is I'm going to basically do a quick introduction about myself and Apptology, and then I'm going to talk about why I think you should consider nonprofits and the public sector. I'm going to kind of maybe break down the nonprofit and the public sector, and then talk about selling features that you really, when you're approaching them, selling features that you should talk about. And then if this is something that you're interested in, I'll talk about next steps, and then possible partnering opportunities with my company, Apptology, and then we'll end it up with Q&A. So I actually started Apptology in 2010. I actually worked at I won't say it, but I worked at a really good startup in Silicon Valley, which got bought up by a bigger company, a well-known company, and then about a year later, 75% of my team was laid off. So, and this is during the downturn of the economy, so I thought, well, I'll give entrepreneurship a try. So I started my own app company. And since then, we've actually have over 400 apps published. Our clients range from startups, government, nonprofits, and a couple of Fortune 500 companies. And my app company is actually, we actually develop apps from scratch. So I actually have iOS developers, Android developers. We can even do Windows Phone and BlackBerry. And currently, I have about 42 people that work with me. I have been a business apps reseller since 2011. And actually, the reason I encountered business apps was I actually encountered them in a competitive situation. And the quote I gave to the client was something in the tens of thousands of dollars. And I think they were basically, the reseller back then was selling for hundreds of dollars. I'm like, holy cow, there's just no way we can compete against this. So, if you can't beat them, you join them. So we actually also resell business apps. And typically, it's more for our smaller clients that we will resell it. And even if there is a larger client that actually has a bigger budget, I'll actually try to sell them first because it's actually a very robust product. and it's very affordable. And you know, for you guys that are new, I've actually looked at other products that are out there, other types of platforms, and business apps really for the price, and is a terrific product. We've actually built about 127 apps on this platform, and actually 3 of those apps we developed actually won awards. And when we market when we sell it, we actually call it ready built. That's what we, internally, or that's how we present it. We actually relabel it ready built to our clients. This is just a quick slide of some of the awards we've won, and I'll go over some of them more in depth later, and some of the press we've received.
Okay.
I've also written a book called Tap into the Mobile Economy. It's available on Amazon for $15, but there's a free digital download. Here's the hyperlink. And Megan's actually going to send you the hyperlink in the follow-up email afterwards. And it's a quick read, and if you're thinking about developing an app, it's really geared for people who want to develop like the next Uber or the next Airbnb or something.
Yeah, so you guys will all receive that.
Go ahead, Megan.
Oh, I was just saying how everyone's going to get that link in the follow-up email, so you can get a free digital copy. So thank you so much for sharing that with the entire audience, Rich.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So I want to talk about why nonprofits in the public sector. And when originally Megan talked to me, she was talking, she actually kind of approached me about, how I sell to to our clients, and it got me to thinking. Really, maybe we should talk about the nonprofit and public sector. And when I look at, when I kind of went back to the Business Apps dashboard, about 2 out of 3 of the Business apps we sold have been to nonprofits. And 4 of those projects actually, believe it or not, actually have been over 10K. And when I found that if a nonprofit is actually looking, if they're contacting me, it's an easy sell. And the reason why is because they've actually talked to other mobile developers who are quoting them tens of thousands of dollars. I could actually send them I'll sell them a whole suite for a $2,000.
Wow.
So and actually I actually haven't purposely, except for in the last 2 months, purposely looked at the nonprofit and private sector. Sorry, there's some background noise. Really, we only focused it in the last few months, and partly because it was just more of a hobby. It was sort of like, oh, that's cute. They're nonprofit. We'll make an app for them. But the reality is, they actually do have money, and I'll talk about the ones that do, and definitely the government sector actually has money. And the $10,000 projects we got were actually for the public sector.
And Rich, wouldn't you say that there's a huge misconception out there that these specific verticals don't have money, so therefore resellers aren't tackling them, as opposed to service-based industries like restaurants and hair salons and fitness centers?
Yeah, so if you by name, if you call it nonprofit or not-for-profit, it makes you think they don't have money. But you look at something like Sutter Health, which is, we actually sold an app to them, and they're like $1 billion nonprofit. You look at, I find that some of a lot of associations have money. I mean, they even have like an IT staff. Where I find, and I'll go more, but they do have money, and that's actually, if you just get turned off by the fact that you say nonprofit or and think they don't have money, the reality is they do. Mm-hmm. So, and some of them actually, and I'll talk more. I'll dig more deeper into this. What I found that's sort of different from, let's say a retail or a business versus a nonprofit is a nonprofit is more focused on a mission. They usually need to, they're either a charity that's trying to raise funds for a cause. They're an association that's, that wants to, where the association has some sort of mission. Where a retailer or a business, they're looking at ROI, and a lot of times they can't really get their arms around the ROI, so, but with nonprofits, they're really, they're really more about communication, getting the message out, and as part of my pitch, I always talked about the population is mobile, and it's an easy sell because if you walk through an airport, you see everyone on a mobile device, and they're getting that, and actually I think they're more getting that now. The other thing is the Business Apps platform is awesome for distributing information. I mean, you can do multimedia, social media, static data, push notifications, and for the most part, the feature set within the Business Apps platform, if I'm talking to a nonprofit, really meets their needs. And a couple times they may actually ask for something more advanced, and I actually will try to talk them down to kind of the features that's only supported by Business Apps, because the more advanced features tend to be kind of will balloon the price, and then when you see the price balloon, they go back to just the feature sets that's available within Business Apps.
Yeah.
So this is an example. This is an app that we work with another Business Apps reseller in Albuquerque. She originally approached us to develop an app, a native app for the city for a contest. I actually looked at the requirements. I said, we could still build on the Business Apps platform. I had to work to convince her to go this route. And it actually won like an $11,000 award, and it also won the Mayor's Innovation Award. This is something we just did recently here in California. We entered the California Health Data Health 2.0, and me and my designer spent a weekend working on creating an app for the Sacramento County WIC office. And there was actually something like over, there was something like 60 teams, not 60. There was probably something like over 100 people that showed up as far away as Seattle and Southern California, and we won #1. We won first prize, and we used the Business Apps platform on this. So
and
thank you. And if you guys are out there and you see a hackathon or a codathon, enter it using the Business Apps platform, because at the end of, if you know it well, at the end of the period, you'll probably be the only person that actually has a working Android and iPhone app. So it puts you heads and shoulders above everyone else.
Yeah, and if you guys want to follow along, Rich has also provided the app code, so you can actually pull that up on your mobile device through the previewer, and then see what sort of features he's included in that.
Right, and this one is actually, we're working right now with Senator Richard Pan to actually hand this over to the Sacramento County WIC office. It's kind of actually interesting. It's hard to actually give things to the government. And this is a recent win for us. It's Caroline, Alaska, and I'll talk a little bit about this. They actually have an RFP out, and their RFP was for $25,000, and they said basically anything above $25,000 is considered not responsive. And when I looked at the requirements, that was a little bit of creativity. I'm thinking, wow, we could do this on the Business Apps platform. And so we actually submitted it, and I actually got some advice, and I didn't charge our normal price. Our normal price is really, we sell $2,000 for the business package. I actually spent time trying to figure out how other additional features. So we got the price, our quote for the project was $13,400. And which my guess is probably half of what the other, I think everyone that my guess is everyone that applied was more closer to the $25K. And then also, part of our applications, we actually provide a working demo. So anyway, this is something in process, but you can actually look at the working demo with App Code Alaska demo.
And Rich, you may be getting into this, but what is the importance of an RFP? Do resellers need this in order to approach this?
I actually have a whole slide on it probably further down the road, so I'll go dig down deeper into, and I'm not an RFP expert, but just from my experience. So, okay.
Okay.
And then, so I'm going to just talk about the different types of, I'm going to kind of divide up nonprofits and public sector. There's, and I would actually say charities, churches, professional associations, political campaigns, and then the government side is local, state, and federal. So charities, actually charities are typically the ones that I would say don't have money. However, they do get grants. And in this case here, we actually developed an app for the Alliance for Children's Rights and Children's Law Center. And what they did is they actually had a grant. They didn't tell me how much the grant was for, but they paid another developer $6,000, and they got nothing. Their time was running short. Uh, they reached out to us. We actually used the Business Apps platform and built an app for them in 2 weeks. They were thrilled. They were able to show their benefactors that they actually had something. The app we've built, and it's called Know Before You Go. It's available in the App Store. Actually, has received a lot of accolades for them, and it's become a resource. So it's actually just a little bit about it. It's for foster children that are leaving the foster system, and typically really bad things happen. They go into prostitution, drugs, and have a high suicide rate. So what they wanted to give them a resource when they left the fosters, and so what they surmised, when they left, they probably will have a smartphone, and most you can actually get an Android phone at Walmart for $50, and then you just go to McDonald's and use the Wi-Fi just to surf. So they wanted to give them a resource. In this app, I used the Around Us feature to show them where food, shelter, housing, education resources was. And it's become even a resource not just for the population they're trying to serve, but also for social workers in Southern California.
Oh, wow.
Again, this is something that I would never really have approached, but in this case here, they actually had a grant. So they actually had my guess is they probably had something like $10,000 to put or a little bit more to put towards this.
Wow.
But what I find in general, charities tend not to have, especially smaller ones. The larger ones like the Red Cross will, but the smaller ones won't. So this one is and it just depends. So this is I would, if you're going to do it, maybe just do it as a pro bono. Churches actually have been a good source of success. I actually haven't really sold anything to churches, but a friend of mine who is a reseller in Albuquerque, she has a business called Church App Lady, and she has got something like on her site. She's sold to about 25 churches, and that's her niche right now.
Yeah.
Professional associations, and actually this is where I've been seeing a lot of successes, because they actually tend to, so a professional association, in this case, is the California State-wide Law Enforcement. There's the California Teachers Association. There is the, around here, there's accountants. There's the national, there's the state, we did one for the Minnesota mental health professionals. So they tend to actually have money, especially they actually have a headquarters. They have, they actually have a building. They'll have an IT staff. So they tend to have money, and they, they're seeing the writing on the wall where they need to be able to communicate with their members via mobile. And a lot of times, in my case, they've made the rounds. They come to us, and they've been getting quotes for $10,000, $20,000, and they come to me and I go, oh yeah, we can do it for $2,000, and it's usually a slam dunk.
So Rich, are you saying that they approached you, or did you go ahead and approach them?
So up until now, they approached me. I just get a call and they go, yeah, I'm from the California, and so I think we do have a nonprofit pricing, so they find us, or they either find other. They do a search on Google or something, and so that's how I've engaged. They've been reaching out to us, but just in the past 2 months, actually, I actually have a sales rep, and she's just focusing on nonprofits and public sector. So we're going to flip the model and start, because up until now, I kind of was thinking, it wasn't my priority, but now I'm like, wow, they actually do have money, so we're starting to focus it on more. And political campaigns. So this is actually for, we developed the app for Congressman Ami Bera. He's in my district. And we are in a battleground district. So there's like 50% Republican, 50% Democrats. And it was the most expensive campaign. I think it was a $10 million campaign for this district. And, an app that only costs $2,000 is a bargain to them. And in this case, they actually use the app more, not so much for reaching out to their voters, more for a tool to communicate with their campaign workers.
And did you approach them, or did they come find you?
this one, so this is where I think networking is important.
Hmm.
So I know both congressmen in my, Congressman Ami Bera and Doris Matsu, and I've met them on networking events in the past 4 years, and they actually recognize me, or at least
Hmm.
their staffer recognizes me. So and I've approached them, and I've done some stuff for them. Like I would help them out with a STEM. They actually taught some high school students how to use the Business Apps platform. So I've done stuff for them. Um, and so, and I think part of it is just karma. If you do things and you don't expect anything, sometimes things will come back to you. So they came in and we made an app for them. And also local government. On the left is an app we developed for the city of Hawthorne, California, and this is a school, actually a community college. What's interesting is I actually got, so in this case, I met the mayor. I was introduced to the mayor, and he wanted an app for his city. And I actually made a presentation to their city council, and they were saying this needs to go out to RFP. And interesting enough, and I'll talk about this later, because our price point, what I sell are the business app platforms for $2,000. It was below their RFP threshold, so their IT managers had signing authority and just purchase it with, it was actually a really easy sell. And schools is another place where you could also focus on. And I think Megan at the upcoming conference, you actually told me that there is a reseller, and all she does is focus on schools.
Hmm.
So that's another good opportunity.
Absolutely.
State government. This is an example. This is the Alaska demo. So this is actually our first one that we've done for the state government, and usually you have to go through an RFP process. But I'll talk more about things you could do. There's other methods of dealing with state government.
So Rich, I have some audience members asking how important is networking when tackling these two verticals? Is it enough just to have a website for your app business, or do you actually need to be attending these networking events, shaking hands?
Yeah.
Can someone be successful with just?
I think it's crucial. It is crucial. I mean, you have to think about it differently. So what's interesting about government workers is they have a different motivation. And then, someone that's working for that's a startup or working in business, they're trying to make a profit. They're trying to be innovative. The government, their whole mantra is, I don't want to do something that's going to be seen, that'll show up in the Sacramento Bee on the front page. They want to be sort of, they're kind of, again, they're anti-innovation in a way. Their mantra is not to make a mistake. So they aren't likely to go and search for, do a Google search for an app developer. What typically is they will, and there's different places to network. There's not a lot, but there are a few.
Mhm.
And their motivation is they want to make sure, in some ways they don't really care about money. They just want it to work, and they don't want it to look, they don't want to be in a situation where they spent money on a vendor and they got nothing, and that'll just make them look bad.
Mhm.
So if you network, you've got a solid reputation, they will go with you. And I'll talk a little bit more, but yeah, networking, or the other possibility is you also network with people that sell into the government. And again, their thing is they want something that they want a solid product. They want to work with companies that have a decent reputation. Federal government, honestly, I can't really talk to this because I haven't sold anything to the federal government. We've done a few demos. This is a demo. I used to be in the Navy. This is a demo I did for my old unit. But interesting enough, as I say this, yesterday I got a call from a vendor. So we were going to bid on a project in Montana, and I got a call from a vendor, and he said they're actually a federal. They do business with the government. They know how to do it. And he was actually, this company was disabled veteran status. So the project was actually set aside to them, but they don't do it. So he's actually contacting me because he has the, he has the ability to work with them, but he just doesn't have the technical means. So, so I'll talk more about this, but interestingly enough, I'm still in the infancy stage of trying to figure out how to work with the federal government, but I'll talk a little bit more about that. But with that said, you might have some opportunities if you look at smaller agencies or smaller units of the federal government.
Sure.
So some key selling features that, if you're engaging in the nonprofit and public sector, I'm going to talk about. And the first thing is that the population has already adopted mobile. And again, this is an easy, they've already figured it. Most people have already figured it out. If you walk through an airport, if you walk through a restaurant, if you see teenagers, there's actually an interesting statistic where millennials are basically the demographic of people under 30 sleep with their phones. And I'm not saying not on the bedside I actually have my phone on the bedside as a clock. No, they actually sleep with it in bed. And if you talk to anyone that has parents of teenagers, they will affirm that they will check on their kids, and their kids will have a cell phone, their smartphone in their bed with them.
True.
The main thing that they really want to do is they want to be able to disseminate information. And Business Apps has so many different ways to do it. I mean, here's like this is a two-tier info tab. This is the RSS feed. This is around us. This is a PDF. I mean, there's so many different ways to display information. And actually, the other biggest thing is just the ability to send out a push notification. And a lot of times when I talk to a nonprofit, or I ask them if they're doing email campaigns, and they are. They're doing awareness through emails, and emails is like the worst way to communicate. I mean, I spend probably the first 20 minutes of my day, I just sit there and delete emails. I delete spam. And actually, unfortunately, a lot of times I get important emails and I don't see it. So it's really a poor way. But push notifications actually has the same read rate as something like a 97% read rate. And if you think about it, if you get that little buzz on your phone, you just glance at it just to see if it's something from your spouse that you have to pick up the kids or something.
Would you say that
the other thing
selling feature for someone in this vertical is the push notification system?
Mm-hmm.
Is this what they're really seeking, or are there other features that that they want included into the app more than the push notification system?
So the thing is that it's a lot of So here's the thing: a lot of times I'll talk to them and they go like, "Yeah, we just have a website. Everything you do can be done on a website." So I have to kind of do the selling. The population is mobile, yada yada. But the one thing, even if they have a mobile website that's responsive design, the one thing they can't do is they can't send a message to their cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the Business Apps platform can do, and that's something that, in fact, a lot of them don't consider it. The exception that I could see is that they actually consider is schools. So we actually have sold to a number of schools, and the big selling feature is the push notification. They want to be able to, like one of our clients has the school district in Hazlet County in New Jersey. And they actually, last winter when they had the polar vortex, I actually knew when their school was out, and I would get a push notification. And it was just an effective way to reach all the parents. And sadly enough, we live in a world where, if there's an emergency like a shooting or a mass casualty,
Right.
the push notification can be used for that. But also, alternatively, they can be used for fundraising. Like, there's a fundraiser today at, the local Pizza Hut or something. So it's really a great way to communicate with the population, and it's something that, that's actually for not just for the public sector, but for private sector. I mean, for the retail part, push notifications is probably one of the most powerful selling features of the Business Apps platform.
Definitely.
Events. A lot of nonprofits and public sector are very event driven. I've actually created a couple apps for associations here, and they have a lot of events, and I go to their events, and it's nice to be able to open up the app and see what the events are instead of going up to Safari and trying to put the URL. In addition, a lot of times they have they'll actually have large events, and if you've encountered other companies that do event-only apps, I actually always try to steer away to clients, and I go, why just have an app just for an event when you could actually create an app for the organization, and then you have you add a tier 1 or tier 2 info tab and have the program in there.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see here on this right, this is for the local, we actually will do a program or can put the program in for our clients, and so they kind of have the best of both worlds. And the other thing is fundraising. And there's an interesting, and I think this is probably more for the church vertical, but a friend of mine, he was just telling me that when he goes to church and they pass the basket around, he doesn't carry cash. I don't carry cash. And so that means he usually has to go to an ATM beforehand or whatever. And I think an ideal, if you're selling to a church or a charity, is to actually have the ability to do a donation from an app. That way, people, more and more people are not carrying cash. So this is an easy way to kind of, get donations from that population.
Yeah.
We make it easier for that population. So let me talk about next. If what I'm talking about is actually of interest to you, let me talk about some suggested next steps. So if you're looking at the nonprofit vertical, my first suggestion is make a freebie. Pick a nonprofit in your organization. It could be like the city chamber is good, a city, or maybe some sort of strategic charity that you would see. And I'll give you a good example. We did a freebie for we did a free app for a Southern California adoption agency. And that one free app, we have probably generated, probably over $25,000 worth of business from that one free app. We got the Before You Know app, which I told you before earlier, which actually led to us developing a custom app for 2-in-1 Oregon. So the other thing it really does, it builds your portfolio. When I find that the nonprofits are kind of a small community, and they'd like to see what other organizations, other nonprofits in their same space will do, and they tend to kind of follow each other. Provide nonprofit pricing. They kind of expect that, so we actually provide our nonprofit pricing is 25% discount from our offer a big package, and you have to market a network. You need to go to the places that they hang out. They actually have. We just recently did a presentation for a nonprofit coalition here. So just again, marketing and networking, I think, are pretty key. Local government, same thing. Make a freebie. We developed an app, a free app for my city. I live in the city of Folsom, and that actually has led to selling apps to a couple of other cities. Again, actually, I have nonprofit pricing here. I would actually not. The city and state can actually pay. They could actually spend. So you may have it, but you may not bring up the fact that they actually is the nonprofit pricing.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Again, market network. I actually met the mayor, a couple mayors that, when I talked to them and I kind of talked to my idea, they loved it. And then, figure out what the thresholds are. So like some of the smaller cities, if it's under $5,000, it doesn't have to go RFP. I just was talking to another company that we're sort of partnering with. They're trying to sell something to the city of LA, and they actually have a $25K threshold where it doesn't have to go to RFP. So find out what that threshold and sort of adapt to that. For state government, if you want to do business with the state government here, you need to register with DGS. And while you're doing so, you could actually register, my guess is you guys are all small business. And in California, there's also disabled veteran status. And try to get on their RFP notification list. And the other thing too is, again, just partner with other experienced vendors that actually already have all the infrastructure. They already have the relationships. They already know how to do state contracts. And then that's usually my advice, and that's the advice I've been given to, is they're trying to do business with the state. Federal government, the first thing you want to do is register on SAM.gov. We actually got a call out of the blue from the Department of Justice. They wanted us to build a couple apps. I gave them a quote. It seemed to move forward until the procurement officer called and said, "What's your cage number?" And my response was, "What is the cage number?" So I had to go on SAM.gov, and it took probably like 2 months to get registered. And by the time I got registered, I kind of lost the business. But register, and that way, if you wanted to do business with the federal government, you're ready. The local SBA is a good resource in trying to figure out how to do business with the federal government. Again, get on the RFP distribution list, and you want to partner with other experienced federal vendors.
Right.
So I'll talk about a couple of if you would like to partner with Apptology, let me talk about a couple of things we can do. One I'm happy to give you advice. I actually have a lot of business apps resellers that'll call me and ask me for advice, and you know the business app sales team will actually refer me, I'll give them my 2 cents, and or the other thing, either from a business standpoint or from a technical standpoint. I actually really know the business apps platform fairly well.
Yeah.
The other thing is if you're working in an RFP, and my next slide I want to talk about a little bit more, but if you read, the first thing I talk about is if you're going through an RFP, read it thoroughly. And sometimes we're looking at an RFP right now that's got 50 pages, and it really sucks when you have to do that. But make sure you meet the minimum requirements. So the state of Alaska, they had minimum requirements for insurance, and they had very specific requirements, like they needed someone that actually had 5 years of mobile app development, that actually had done apps, medical apps. So I think there was an incumbent there that actually met those requirements, but fortunately, so did we. So, if you are looking at the requirements and you don't feel that you can meet the requirements, contact me, and maybe, we could work together and we could do it on your behalf, and, we could work with you and we could do it through us, because there's a possibility that we might meet the requirements. Or again, earlier, you might also look at vendors that have the experience in that, state or federal government that actually do meet the requirements, so maybe you could partner with them. Keep an eye on the deadline. So whenever I look at an RFP, I actually look at the deadline, and it takes a lot of time. So, I've done probably about 5 RFPs, and we've won 1. And I think that's what I've been talking to people. That's a pretty good odd. We won 20% of your RFPs, but it takes a lot of time. So you should almost have an RFP template created. And as you go through the RFP, flag questions. Flag. Ask questions, and then ask, there's always someone that's sort of managing, that's a point of contact. Ask the questions about that RFP. And then, you could partner with other suppliers that have that infrastructure, or again, if you feel that, I would be happy to call, you could happy to contact me, and I'd be happy to partner with you if we can help you out. And finally, our core business is custom app development. So in the event that you're looking at a situation where the business apps platform doesn't meet all the requirements, there's a couple possibilities. One is we could actually create a widget that actually works within the business apps platform. So examples that we've done in the past, we've done a couple. We did a Wheel of Fortune kind of game within a business apps platform for a client. We've also created custom maps and custom calculators. So that's a good example. And then the other one, we actually we're working with a business apps platform reseller in, I think he's in Charleston, California, and he got in a situation where he was trying to sell a business apps solution, but it didn't meet what they're doing. They really wanted a custom product, and the final product was priced with $70,000, of which the reseller that brought it to us got he actually marked it up $20,000. So he actually got a $20,000 from that markup. So several ways we could partner with you guys. With that said, I'm actually now open to questions, and hopefully, Megan, we have a few people that have asked questions, or informed to death.
Definitely. We have some questions that have come through during the webinar session, and someone is wanting to know, are the apps without the business apps app codes previously, were they developed natively?
Without the business apps platform. So yeah, in other words, they were actually everything I pretty much showed you in this have been built on the business apps platform. And what I did was a couple of months just search for it on the App Store. Mm-hmm. So like the city of Albuquerque, that was actually done under the other reseller's app code, and I actually can find it. But if you just search the city of Albuquerque, you'll find that, for example, on the App Store.
How is the sales conversation different from selling to an SMB to someone in this vertical? Is it a longer sales cycle? Can you just give us a breakdown of what that process looks like?
Interesting enough, in general, it gets to be more of a shorter sales cycle.
Oh, okay.
I think it just depends. So I find that if they're looking for it, then it's a short sales cycle. Like they're ready to go. Like they've called me and they've talked to other vendors, and usually when they talk to other vendors, they've done a Google search, and they're getting quotes for like $20,000. And when you come in and say, yeah, we could do it for two, and not only can we do it for two, but it's iPhone, Android, we can even do for BlackBerry, Windows Phone. It's like almost a no-brainer to them. But so usually if they're looking, they already have money. They're ready to move. So it just depends. But if you're meeting them and networking, it's sort of like just the same thing as any talking to a restaurant. They'll think about it for a while.
Mm-hmm. And how do you close the sale at that point in time? Is it in person? Is it how do you close the sale, and when is money collected?
So usually I give them all the information.
Sure.
And we do a couple things. We actually have a 30-day no question money back guarantee. So within the first 30 days, if they aren't happy, I will refund them money. So fortunately, no one's taking me up on that. And we also have, we don't lock them in. I said if after 3 months, on the monthly fee, if they don't, basically if they want to cancel, we don't have like a long-term commitment. So that usually, that actually makes me feel more comfortable. And here's just general advice too that I'll give to all the resellers. I actually say now that I will guarantee that the app will get accepted by the Apple App Store. So when we first started working with business apps, it was like the first year, I'd say we had like 4 or 5 apps got rejected by Apple. And we literally spent months trying to get it accepted. And it was just pain. And what I've sort of realized is what the client wants and what Apple wants are two separate things. So what I'll tell them is we will first make the initial design, but we're going to make the Apple so that it passes what Apple's muster. And Apple wants more functionality. They want more bells and whistles.
Right.
Whereas most of our clients want more content. And so I said, after Apple approves it, that's when we do the customization.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when we'll add more static data. We'll add more website tabs, and we'll and I'll just give you an example. When we developed the app for Congresswoman Doris Matsui, there was a coupon feature in there. Not like the Congresswoman want to have a coupon.
Yeah.
So, but as soon as the app was approved, I disabled that feature because you don't want the press saying that she has the coupons. So the thing is, Apple never goes back and looks at the app after it's approved. Unless there's complaints of like violence or porn or drugs or something. But otherwise, there's 1.5 million apps, and there's just no time to police it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how I actually will guarantee it'll get in the App Store. So that's my kind of conversation with them that kind of mitigates their fear. And then typically I need the full amount of forward to start work and the setup fee, and then after it's been approved, that's when I'll start charging the monthly fee.
Sure. Okay, Rich. Someone is asking. So you say that the price for a BizApps app is $2,000 setup fee. Do you also charge a monthly reoccurring fee along with that?
Yeah. So what we do is what our pricing is $2,000, and we call it the business package, and it's the iPhone, iPad, Android. By the way, we could actually we could take the HTML, make a BlackBerry, and then the way I position the HTML5 is I call that Windows Phone Access. So that's our full package, and we charge $70 a month. And then we also, if people are balking at that price, I could sell it a la carte, and I sell it $550 per platform. So iPhone and Android would be $1,100, and then that would be a $50 a month fee. So that's kind of sort of be able to get, kind of high end. I have this big package, but if they're balking a price, I kind of sell it a la carte.
And then you are working with one specific person at this organization, or are you working with multiple people? And how do you teach that your client how to manage the app?
Okay. So part of our implementation process is I will tell them, we'll get into WebEx. We use WebEx, but it's very similar to this. I will have my account manager to show them how to manage their app. And we'll spend half an hour. We'll actually record the session and send them the link. But with that, one of the things I tell them they get for for that monthly fee is it's hosting, support, and upgrade. So I tell them if you do have questions, just email us and we'll help you.
Okay, so during the webinar, you had mentioned that some of these organizations, they look for app companies that have been in business for, 5+ years. They've, done app from development, for other nonprofits or public sector organizations. Where can someone start today who is now excited about tackling this vertical? Do they start locally? How do they find leads? And how do they contact these leads?
So when I first started, we actually did 3 free apps to build our portfolio. Partly so that we could understand how the platform works and how it was a learning curve initially, and the product's gotten a lot better. But 4 years ago, it was kind of rough. So I would say part of it is networking. Go to chamber events. Go to find out if talk to people that work in the nonprofit field. Find out where they go. There's like a nonprofit association of nonprofits. The other thing too that is just pick a few key clients and offer to make an app for them. An example would be the Chamber of Commerce. Ask them if you could build an app for them for free in exchange for membership and maybe a speaking opportunity. Oh, by the way, I do a lot of speaking. I actually have now I have 3 presentations 3 different presentations for three different types of groups that I'll go out and give. And I don't try not to be a commercial. I actually hate it when people are too much commercial. I try to just give them, we are a resource, but there is but I also try to point out other resources out there.
That's awesome. And then someone is asking, what do you consider an update? So I think that you're referring to just updating the app's feature.
Yeah, so this is something that I kind of wrestle with you guys a little bit, but the best example I could think of is when iOS 7 came out, it actually broke the loyalty card feature.
Yes, I remember.
Actually, for a while I used to do it for free, but now I get charged $50. But so if there's a feature, in fact, I'm working with one client. They're actually just remind me that where the app's kind of broken, and the way to fix it is to put a new binary, have them submit a new binary, and then so I basically say that part's covered. Submitting it. If something's broken because of a Apple development or Apple or Android update, then we'll fix it. So that's part of my selling feature.
Awesome. Okay, so we have time for one more question, and someone is asking, Rich, typically how many requests do you get from customers to change update info tabs on a monthly basis? Do you train them on this CMS or accommodate the requests? Do you have limits to how many times they can contact you?
That's an art. So we spend time. Most of our clients really are self-sufficient, because we'll spend about half an hour. But sometimes actually with associations, because a lot of times they change their officers, so the new officers don't know how to use it, so you end up having to train the new officers. So it's one of those things. And actually, here's the thing. So if it's a small, something small, it's not a big deal. I have my account manager. We have an account manager, and he handles that. But if it's something that's sort of like, hey, they're doing it a lot, then we kind of just say, hey, we'll show you how to do this, but if you want us to do it more than this, it's going to be $75 an hour.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So,
Perfect.
and then once they hear that, they learn quickly.
All right. Well, that looks like that's all the time we have today. I want to thank everyone once again for joining us on this webinar. Again, a recording of this webinar session will be sent out to your email address that you signed up with. Also included in that follow-up email is the link for Rich's book. So thank you for allowing all the users to go ahead and receive a free copy. And then again, Rich, you are going to be at the Mobilize conference, so we're excited to have you then. You all have the opportunity to meet Rich in person, network with him, and then he's going to be hosting the breakout session on how to add functionality outside of the Business Apps platform, which I'm sure everyone can benefit from. I will also be there. I want to know how to do that as well. Do you have any last minute things to say, Rich, at this time before we sign off?
No, just thanks for the opportunity for speaking. You have my contact information, and if you have any questions, either about the business side or the technical side, give me a call, and I'm happy to talk to you. And then, my it's all about karma, so we all help each other, and we'll all be successful.
Definitely. All right. Thank you so much again, Rich, and thank you everyone for joining us today.